On this AVNation special, we sit down with the team at AtlasIED talking about Atmosphere, the product launch that we helped them do last summer, looking at the new updates for Atmosphere 2.0. All that and more next on this AVNation special.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is an AVNation special, updating AtlasIED's Atmosphere. This is an AVNation special. My name is Tim Albright, your host. About a year or so ago, we brought you the launch of Atmosphere, a brand new product platform from our friends over at AtlasIED. With me today to talk about how it's been going since then and a couple of updates is first and foremost my buddy, Mr. Michael Peebler. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, sir. How you doing?
I am well. And Tom Lerman, the guy that you never hear from but does some magic in the background. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
I mentioned about a year or so ago, actually all three of us were together here locally for us at the AVNation Studios. It was a launch that launched 1,000 memes of me running for some odd forsaken reason. I don't know. I blame Gina Sansevero for that, just because I can. But no, seriously, it was a great event. Not only were you guys there, but also, Mr. John Ivy was there. Michael, I'm going to start with you on this. One of the things that you guys really kind of honed in on, and that was the platform part of this, right? This was not just a product launch. This was not just, this is something that we're just kind of throwing out there. This is an entirely new platform for you guys. So given that we are, let's say a year, maybe 10 months here, what has been the reception so far, and how has it been going, in the marketplace since that launch in July?
Yeah, it's really been fantastic. And Tim, you're exactly right. We didn't just introduce a product. We launched an entire platform that we will develop on for years to come. And kudos to the smart guy on this, Tom, and his team for really driving that development and creating that. The reception's been incredibly positive. Obviously, there's been inherent market challenges, but we've seen great sales from the product. We've seen more and more, resellers looking at this saying, listen, the user interface, incredibly intuitive. We love how easy it is to install. And all the things that I think product management thought were going to be seen as an advantage or a really positive part of the product, they have been, which is great confirmation. But kudos to the reseller channel, because they've surprised us as well by creating or finding applications for the product that I don't think, and I don't want to say this to be rude to Tom, but I don't think were the focus necessarily of the product. And resellers have done this for years. You build something with the idea it's going to be this, and then they go, oh, well, but I could also do that with it. And they've done that. Again, kind of kudos to Tom and his entire team, John Stemble and others, who have made a point of really engaging with the end user and with the reseller community. A lot of demos, a lot of virtual meetings in that 7-8 months since the launch, to listen to what they wanted to see, and to look at how that can be incorporated without any alteration on the platform or the roadmap. So we're thrilled with the product, and we're thrilled with the announcement we're going to talk about today. And we think the future is incredibly bright. So it's really been fantastic. And I personally saved about 5 of the memes of you running.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
I think
one of the things, and Michael mentioned the kind of the demo room. We kind of broke it that week, Tom, because your guys had X amount of seats. It was virtual, right? So there's certain limitations, but you guys even had to extend it even beyond that first week, which I think is incredible. Also speaks to some of that demand. Talk for a second, Tom, about some of that feedback that you've gotten and kind of where we are today and what you guys are talking about in this latest release, this latest launch.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned the week of demos that actually extended out to about 3 months. So John Stemble's basically full-time job was being in my seat right here, talking to small and large groups of people about this, and the feedback was fantastic. As Michael said, we've been getting a lot of great feedback for suggestions or just use cases that they've been able to do. And as part of that, we have a planned, roadmap update of features and new hardware in the future. But, today we're talking about software version 2.0, which has probably 5 main features and about a dozen, big features. Of course, numerous optimizations and things like that. But the 5 big features are stereo support, subwoofer support, room combine, bell scheduler, and accessory self-heal. So stereo support and subwoofer support are pretty easy to understand. Room combine is pretty common in some platforms of being able to combine multiple zones together to create kind of one big zone. But the magic in that is having it be very easy to use and easy to program, and from an end user perspective, be able to control that without being confused as to what's happening. Bell scheduler is exactly what you think it would be. We're able to create bell schedulers for even the most complex school systems and factories and other industries. And accessory self-heal is a way to automatically program any of our wall controllers or audio wall plates. If something were to happen or if it were to need to be replaced, all you have to do is take the old one out, plug the new one in, and you're up and running. And then beyond that, the dozen other big features, things like improved mixing, our virtual wall controller 2.0, which is a way of getting audio control on your mobile device without having to have an app or anything, and just dozens of other big features.
I want to go through a couple of these really quickly. And the first one I want to tackle is the room combiner. And you made a comment there, and again, I used to used to say that I was a programmer. I never really was a real one. I just tried really hard. I was never that smart. But one thing that always kind of tripped me up was the room combining, right? Whether that was the programming the control system to do that, or it was programming the DSP to do that. The one part of that magic thing that you said there is make it easy and make it simple for both the end user, the person actually trying to combine and divide the rooms, and also for the programmer. Talk for a second about the need for that, especially in hospitality, especially in event spaces, and how you guys were able, take me through the ones and zeros, but how you guys were able to make that interface more simple to use and more simple to program.
I think the biggest thing is we had the luxury of 3 years ago starting from scratch. We didn't have a platform we had to build on. We didn't have a software suite we had to fit into or a paradigm we had to meet. We were able to start from scratch. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this is part of a planned update. So we always planned to have this in there. And one of the biggest pillars of Atmosphere is for it to be kind of a next generation of programming experience where you don't have to go in and draw all your lines and make all your connections in order to do the things that you need to do. More and more the feedback we've been getting is, we don't miss the old way of having every possible tool in a toolbox that I now have to build my system. You guys provided all these tools in such a way and in an order and with an interface that makes sense. So I would say the most important thing was starting kind of from scratch, knowing where the industry has gone over the past couple decades and knowing we wanted to do it simpler and better. So that's a big advantage we have, was not having to fit into any other kind of paradigm. Another pillar of Atmosphere is ease of use for installers and ease of use for end users. And I know that's really a common thing that people want to say, but we really took care in talking with integrators and saying, how are you using these room combined experiences? And let's talk about how your customers, once you program it, are you getting calls back from your customers? So we were able to get lots of good feedback. One of the reasons we're doing room combined now versus at launch is we wanted to have that feedback. We wanted to have systems out in the field. We wanted to have hands-on with our system and in our environment. And so by doing that, it was a really natural evolution for our zones to now be able to be combined and uncombined. And we have all sorts of different ways to do that with GPI and virtual wall controllers and front panels and physical wall controllers and things like that. And the thought process has always been, if our integrators and installers can program this in such a way where they don't get calls back, that's our biggest goal. And we found that the integrators have really latched onto that because, that's a service call and, that's hours of their billable hours and all that stuff. So any further maintenance is deemed unacceptable. So that was just really a pillar of it, and listening to people and going out to systems and seeing how it's used.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, really quickly before we get back to Tom on some of the features, he used the term feedback, which I think is kind of a little funny pun, talking about a DSP. But talk about that feedback loop, right? Talk about that feedback loop when it comes to getting back from the dealers that like you have over the last year, and the way that you guys are able to kind of facilitate that communication between the end user and those facilities and the dealer and you guys, and getting that back into Tom and his team, and so they can start working on and assessing some of these use cases, but also some of these feature requests.
Yeah, so we've used technology and we've used time, and we've tried to knock down every point of friction or barrier between us and the customer. And the customer in this case is both the reseller, installer that's going to have to be out there doing it and supporting it long term, and the end customer who's going to be using it, kind of to Tom's point. So, we use Teams, right? I know there's Zoom and Teams and all the other, but we, as a company, we use Teams. So there's a team created for this. And so anyone in the company that's interfacing with those groups has a medium to go put it out there. And everyone on the engineering and product management side is on that team. So if they hear, one of my RSMs or one of our reps out in the field is talking to a customer and they get a particular point of feedback that person finds interesting, they immediately can pop open Teams and say, hey, I just got off a phone call with someone who said da-da-da-da-da, right? And it immediately gets looked at and considered and digested as a point of feedback. And really, to Tom's point, I think the beautiful thing that we did is by making that team, the product management team, so accessible. And it really was 3 months of just pounding that team with demos and candidly, I mean, we did it because that was the only way we could get it out because of COVID. But we got all these byproduct, these unintended consequences of all this communication, and Tom did a really fantastic job, and so did John Stemble, at really digging in and asking the why question. Why do you need that? Why? How is your customer going to use it? How? Instead of just saying, look, I'm going to train you on this and I'm going to do the demo and I'm on autopilot and I've already done 500 of these. They really went in and said, why do you want to know that? Or why do you care about that? Or how is your customer going to use it? And like, let's just go to the room combining. And Tom, we'll consider this a little relay. I may pass the baton to you here, make sure I use the right term. But, one of the things I love in the way the system is set up now is if a facility, let's say it's a hotel in a town, and the first Tuesday of every month they have the Rotary meeting, and that room needs to be one big room, they can set it up so that it's always on the schedule to do that. And the tech doesn't have to remember. And if the tech gets sick on Monday afternoon, they don't have to, wake up Tuesday morning and go, oh no, the room's not going to be ready for Rotary. It's all set up to do it. Whereas on Monday, it was broken into 3 different rooms. And Tom and the product management team and the engineering team, they developed a way for that to be set up. So they already know that that's coming. It's already planned to physically happen. And I think that's really understanding and going to the point of understanding the end customer's pain, because if we understand that well, it's a better chance that our reseller partner is going to be successful. And to Tom's point, if they don't have to roll a truck, they just got a happy customer, then when the customer wants another experience, they're likely to pick up the phone and call that same integrator and say, hey, you did such a good job last time. We haven't even had to call you. We got another project. And we think that's really positive, especially as we start talking about projects that scale to hundreds of locations, right? We've got, gyms and personal gyms and retail facilities and all that have locations across the country. They want to know that they're going to roll it out once and be able to trust that it's going to work. And again, I think Tom and his team really did a fantastic job. And Tom, you can specifically talk about the application I shared. What's the term? I'm still learning 2.0. Sorry, but what's the new term for how that's set up?
Our scheduler.
Yeah, well, it's the scheduler, but I was thinking there was something else. But
Yeah, we have schedulers that can recall things like scenes or GPOs
scenes,
or
scenes.
combined. Yeah. Yep.
And then those can also be scheduled, throughout, just like you schedule your Outlook and your calendar, you can have one repeat every single Monday, let's say at 3:00, right? And then that is what kind of Michael's talking about with that automation part, right? Where you can set a scene, you can set a theme, you can set certain parameters, and it happens every single day and every single week, and when whatever you want to do, which is what you're talking about, where you automate that process,
right?
Especially in systems and facilities that these regularly occurring meetings happen. And that is something, especially when it comes to room combine and divide, that a lot of facilities do have, especially as we all kind of get back into in-person events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom, I also one thing real quickly, because Michael's hit on, and you both have hit on that truck roll portion. Talk for a second about the power of self-healing. Other industries and other technologies in the AV space have gone down this road. Displays have gotten this. Some digital signage players as well. But when you guys start talking about self-healing, talk for a second about the power that this gives integrators when it comes to time-saving measures, because you no longer have to reprogram an ancillary device. You can just simply unplug the broken one, plug the other one back in, and the system is up and running. Talk for a second about how this saves both the customer time and money, but also the integrator.
Yeah, the self-heal is an interesting one. We talk about our planned updates and we talk about getting feedback from our customers. And this is one which is based directly off of feedback we got from integrators. And the conversation usually goes something like this is, how do you, if one breaks, how do you get it up and running again? And we had, okay answer. Well, you can just do the same thing. It only takes, the beauty of these controllers, it only takes a few minutes to set up something that would normally take a half hour or more in something like an open architecture system. And it wasn't, and we said we don't plan on them breaking. And that wasn't the point. The point was peace of mind. The point was, I have, especially for bigger companies, big and small companies, they have different levels of techs that they could send out to an end site. And if the tech needs to be, a high level tech that's trained and programmed, it costs them more money versus a lower level tech that can, that's not as familiar, that can be trusted to plug the system in okay. And furthermore, they, for the customer to get up and running as fast as possible, a lot of them said, our customers would choose the option to just have it drop shipped directly to them and they could plug it in. So this wasn't as much of a need from, well, we think these things are going to break over time, or even our customers saying we're concerned they're going to break over time. Their concern was when things happen, and things may happen, how can we get the customer up and running as fast as possible with as little downtime and with no error? And that's how this feature was developed. And, we took that feedback going, okay, well, how do we solve this problem? I've been involved in self-heal systems in the past that were really laborious to set up and a little finicky. So we came up with a really simple solution to this, and it really is as easy as, it's a boring demo because all you're doing is unplugging one and plugging it back in and nothing happens, and that's the point. So it really was all about peace of mind, and this is from direct feedback from our customers.
I want to point something out. You said about having systems drop shipped. Michael mentioned the fact that some of these systems are going into larger venues. There are some customers and more customers that have on-site techs or on-site AV integrators or on-site IT technicians who also know AV who can do these things. A lot of times they'll purchase XYZ of a number of devices that they think maybe not break because it's a bad design, but these systems and these systems are in publicly facing facilities, right?
Right.
One of the things about hospitality is if you say something's, if you put something out in the public, there's a good chance if the public can get their hand on it, it could get, I don't know, a baseball bat through it or something. But so those things will happen. I'm talking about TVs here, and there's a long story there. But, giving them that power and the ability to get their system up and running without having calling a tech or just calling a tech and then walking through, it's okay, you know where that box is that we sold you the extra, 2 or 3 of these, just go replace it and that's it, right? There's some power, some serious power there.
Yeah, and just by the sheer number of, but just by the sheer number of different integrators around the world that sort of had the same experience, they're talking from experience. Like the fact is things happen, and when they do, what can we do to help?
And Michael, talk about the power from a sales standpoint of giving the customer, the actual restaurant owner or the hotel manager, that peace of mind that knows that, you know what, yeah, you're going to buy a couple extra of these, but you're going to be down the time it takes to walk back to the warehouse and plug it back in, right?
Yeah, huge, obviously, right? All of us buy technology, consumer technology and all kinds of stuff. And there's a failure rate. I used to have a mentor who used to always say, it's technology. It's going to fail every once in a while. And people will not judge you by whether your technology fails every once in a while. They'll judge you by how you respond when it does, right? And I think an owner, you say, listen, we don't expect this to fail, but if it does, here's your insurance plan. You bought one extra, you go in there, you plug it in, and guess what? Your background music in your restaurant or in your dining area or your bar area or your gymnasium. You talk about a baseball bat. I think about this going into a junior high or high school gym, with a Bluetooth receiver there for music for pep rallies. And, a basketball, a baseball bat, a seventh grader's head. I mean, who knows what it's going to be, right? So stuff's going to break sometimes. I think it's a powerful message to an end user to say, listen, we've thought about this, and we have a solution for you that's super simple. So, I think it's an incredibly powerful part of the design. And it really speaks to the whole idea. Again, we go back to that platform word, but it speaks to the power of the platform, that it's done and looked at. And, Tom said it, we started scratch, right? We didn't have to have something else that we were working from. And so they could think, how is this, not only how's it going to work, but how's the interface going to look, and what else is in the world today? And, the intelligent learning devices, like we talked about with the ambient noise sensors and ambient noise compensation, that didn't exist maybe 3 years ago like it does now. And so the ability to really build a whole experience around the platform, as opposed to just building a set of hardware and saying, this is what it is. And then the flexibility of the team and the platform to listen to customers and say, yep, you know what, we can do that. We weren't, at least I will tell you from a sales standpoint, the intent was not to drive this as an education solution initially when we introduced it. We saw an avenue for it. We absolutely saw a place that it could fit. But we had a lot of customers come back and say, hey, I've got a small school in my area, and they've got a Bell and PA system put in the 1960s. Or early 70s, and they don't want to spend the money on a significant upgrade, and the head end of whatever system it is extremely expensive, and they don't want to go spend the money. And we've had this for years, and people would take our GlobalCom system, our head end that drives airports and stuff, and candidly, they would look at it and go, this is more expensive than what we were looking to pay. And the beauty is with Atmosphere and with the Bell scheduling application, which, as Tom said, it works in industrial and healthcare and all kinds of other applications, right? It fits. But it can absolutely work in a school. And for a really effective cost, you can swap it out, tie into the amplifier that's there, or swap that out, change out some of the speakers from the 70s that haven't worked in 20 years. And, everybody just knows don't stand on that side of the room because it doesn't work. Get that stuff started. And all of a sudden the school's got something that looks modern, feels modern, has modern interfaces like Bluetooth and XLR for the microphone. And they've got a more modern Bell and PA system. And all they've done is swap out the head end. So I love the fact that they were able to respond and create something that looks custom designed for that space. So it's all a very powerful message. We spend a lot of time talking to end users, and the message plays very, very well.
What also gives that, specifically about the school system, it also gives that school a platform to build on and to kind of grow with. Not quite future-proof. I don't use that word.
No.
But it gives them a platform to grow for the next few years. And kind of expand as they do grow, right? And as they do replace those speakers that haven't worked in 30 years. So
absolutely. Look, we've got 1,003 school districts in the state of Texas, and we think big districts, right? Dallas and Fort Worth and Houston and, Harris County and all of that kind of stuff. But we've also got 700 small school districts. There's a lot of little bitty districts in rural parts of the state and they may not see a massive growth in population. They're just looking to keep things running. And this makes for a fantastic solution that's cost effective. And the virtual wall controller all of a sudden in the building becomes somewhat of a mobile app. So if they need to do something off of it, press an emergency notification and have a pre-recorded message for a particular event, they can. So yeah, it gives them a very modern system that fits the application and takes them much farther than what they thought they were going to get by just changing out the head end.
Absolutely. Tom, as we wrap up here, we're recording this a couple days before you're ready to go. But if somebody needs to get a hold or wants to get a hold of this latest upgrade, how do they get a hold of you, or how do they get a hold of Atmosphere 2.0?
AtlasIED.com is where the firmware will be hosted, of course, on our website, on any of the product pages for Atmosphere. And that should be ready the first week of May. And you can always email me at tom.lurman@atlasied.com, tom.lureman@atlasied.com.
Very good. And Mr. Peebler, if somebody wants to find out more about Atmosphere or anything with AtlasIED, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, keep an eye on us on socials. Obviously, right? We're on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. At AtlasIED.com. Make sure you check out the application pages. We've got 2 incredible case studies coming out on Atmosphere. One in a brewery dining area, inside outdoor. All Atlas IED, all driven with Atlas in the head end. We've got a hospitality application coming as well. These are both going to be, they're professionally shot and done. So it's going to be a great way to kind of see the product in the wild, how it's being used. And they can reach out on the website. On the Contact Us page is a list of my entire team across the country. Or if you need anything 24/7, just feel free to call Tom. No, I'm just kidding. You can reach out to me at michael.peevler@atlasied.com or reach out to us through the contact page, and we'll make sure somebody in your area gets it back to you very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys both so much. It's been great kind of catching up and kind of putting a bow on last year's festivities and the fun that we had last summer. So thank you both. For us here at AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You can actually watch the launch of Atmosphere from last July. Find out all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.